Welcome to MacroCode. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. So this is my student minimal API, and today I want to show you guys how to use EF core in a better way. So as you can see, we have the student endpoint. So you have the post. So this is where you're creating new students. So you can provide new student names, middle name, last name, email address, and even the address, and you can save. So you can see it is returning the records that we've just provided. You can also get all the list of students. If I just do that, then you'll be able to get the list of students. So you can also test this particular API on a Postman. You can also update student records. You can delete and you can get a student. So this is my minimal API using .NET 9. So as you can see, this is my program.cs file. We have our map group here, and we have actually mapped student endpoints. We have the Swagger, we are using Swagger, and we also have our application service, which we actually have it here. So we have this is where we've done our database connection. So this, we were able to do this. So let me just move this here. This is how it should look, and we have it here. So this is our normal way of connecting our database to our application. And you can see we have our student interface, and the implementation is here, where we have all our methods: add student, delete student, and also get a student by ID, and get all students. So I want us to configure our application and actually improve and do better than this. So assuming we want to add retries in our application and even a timeout, for example, on the connection. So here we need to do, we can do here SQL Server connection. Then I'll just do that. Then here I can do, if I do this, and I can do here dot, then here I can say enable retry on failure. Then I can put in times, so maybe 3 times. Then I can also do here, can put in here command timeout. Then I can say 30. Then I can also enable detailed errors, and ensure that you don't enable these on a live environment or on production. So you need to only use these when you are developing or doing a test on your application. Then you also have enable sensitive data logging. So as you can see, we've been able to add retries three times, command timeout 30, enable detailed errors true, and even enable sensitive data logging as true. So if we try to relaunch our app, this should work. So we've not changed anything, but there's an issue with what we've done here. And as you can see, we can be able to get data. So if I just do that, we can be able to get the data. So the problem I have with this way of doing things is the command timeout here, assuming we want to change this to 20, and we've already deployed our application, then we need to redeploy the application so that we enable, assuming we also want to make this a false, and also to make this false, or increase the number of retries to 5. So all these that we are doing here, we are actually add coding. So we should not now be doing this, and we have a better way. So some of you might be asking whether we have a better way to do this. So we actually have a better way to do this. Instead of add coding, we should be having a way to control this without redeploying the application. So one thing that I want us to do, we need to go to our application app settings. Then I'll introduce database options here. I'll just call database options. Then I can do this. So here, inside here, I want us to do, we can put in our values. So we can say max retry count. Then we can say we need 3 times. Then you have, then we can do enabled, detailed errors. Then we can do here also, this is can say false. We can also add a command timeout. Let's say command timeout, and we can do here 30. Then you can also have enable sensitive error logs, data logging. So you can say enable sensitive data logging. So then you can also have this as false. So we've enabled this. So we can control the values from here. So assuming, once we have these values here, the same way we usually have the data connections, that is the DB connections, we can always change the database connections without deploying the application. So you can also do better on this particular approach instead of actually doing this. So you can also do better. So one thing that I want us to do is I want us to create a folder, and we can call this folder, I'll stop my app. Then we'll call this folder options, we call it options. Then we can call the name here database options. So you call it database options. And then we'll need to add some classes here. So we have the connection string, and we can initialize this. You can just assign it a default value of empty. Then you can also have public. Then you can say int do max retry count. Then you can have that. Then you can also have command timeout, and say command timeout. Then we can also have enabled. So these will be Boolean. Enabled detailed errors. So what needs to happen is ensure the properties here are actually the same properties we have here. So I'll even recommend you copy from here and have it pasted here. This one also, you paste it here. So if you don't have them matching, then you'll have a problem. So we'll go to DB options. Then I'll also do here public Boolean. Sorry. Then we have that, and we have that. So this is our values. So it should be matching the DB options that are there on our app settings. So after we do this, then we need to add something here called database option setup. We can just add database option setup. This is a class. Then here we need to inherit IConfiguration, and do here IConfiguration options. So we need to do IConfiguration options. Where is it? IConfiguration. We need to do config options. Then we need to pass our DB options. You see, we have, so this should be IConfigure options, and this one is our DB. Then let's see, this one is saying what here. So we need to implement our interface, and we need to have this configure DB options. So what I need to have here is I need to have, so we need to do public read only IConfiguration, and here we can have, we need to assign. So we will say our configuration. Here I'll need so here I'll need my constructor here. So I'll say, then I'll do here, I'll inject this here, then I'll say configuration, then we can assign it here. Then for our configure options, so I'll need to get here, I can actually access our connection string. So we'll say connection string is equals to, you see we have IConfiguration, then connection string, and this is the default connection that we have here. So then we can assign, so we can say options. There we go. We can say options. This is our DB connections model that we've just created. You see here, we can assign value to this connection string. So we'll assign the value here, and if it's not, if it's null, we do empty. Then what we need to do, we need to get the values. So instead of doing this max count, configure, get value, then accessing that one by one. We can actually do here, you can say configuration this way. So you can say database options, bind options. We bind to these particular options that we have here. And this DB options is actually here. So we've been able to bind the values to this particular model. That's why I was telling you need to have these values exactly as what we have on our database options. So after doing this, then we have our application already well done. So what we need to do next is we need to now configure and add this particular DB option setup. Now what we need to do now is we need to go back to our service extension, and here you already have you already see we have our connection string. We've done this, and we need to now change this, because this one we need to redeploy our application whenever we need to change anything here. So what I want us to do, we need first to register our database option setup. So we can inject it here. We'll say builder.services dot configure. So we'll do configure options, and there we go. You can see here it's configure options. We'll do configure options. Then I'll just paste I'll just have my database. So I'll do database setup. I'll just do my database setup here, and this is a method. Then I'll just do that. So this should be that way. So we now have our builder.services configure database option. So since we have this, then we need to do something. So here on our database, I want us to add something on our database here, context. So we have the add DbContext option. So I want us to change this. So if we need to do here service provider. Then we need to have our options. Then on our service provider, we can actually get our DB options. So I'll say variable database options. Then we say service provider. Then dot you can get service. We just get a service. Then we'll pass our I options, database options, and then we say here dot value. So this one should be I options. Then we need to have a value here. So since we do this can just do that. So we'll be having our database options, and we'll get the value here. Then we can now change these particular things that we have here. So you can even see our connection string. We can comment this. And on our connection string, we can now have our database option. Then you can access our connection string. We can also access our retry, max retry count. We can also access our command timeout. Then we can also access our detailed errors. And we can also have sensitive logging. So the good thing with this now, we are accessing the values from here. So whenever we change the database, whenever we want to change the values here, then we don't need to redeploy the application. So you can see we have the database options and the default setting. Then on our program, on our service extension, I've removed this. So we are getting values from our database setup. Then we are accessing those values from here, and we are not hard coding. So if I try to change, relaunch our app just to ensure everything is running, we should be able to get students' data from the database without any interruption. So let's just access our API. As you can see, everything is running. And if I just do here get students, I'll just execute. And you see we have our students' records. That means our application is working based on the changes that we've done. So that is it for today, and see you in our next episode. I believe you now have a better way to do things. See you, and subscribe to our channel. Bye.